Hi, I'm Connor.
Can't laugh.
I'm allowed. If you're allowed to do a bit, I'm allowed to laugh.
Okay, go back. You start again.
Hi, I'm Connor.
I'm sorry. 1 second.
Hi, I'm Connor.
You know who I am. And this is the #1 podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Good Pods.
Good Pods? Is that a service that we're on?
Yes, indeed, Rooney, it is.
I think
So
it's Spotify.
And before there are any comments saying that we've changed or that the content isn't what it used to be, I just want to let you know that that's not true. Our heart and soul is always going to be in the content that we make for you guys. So I don't have a lighter.
Don't like that inside.
Why not? It's out of gas. All right, that's my bit. I wanted to do that.
That's your bit. Okay, good. I liked your bit.
Ta-da. I went to art school. Can you tell? Hi, I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Connor.
And this is our channel.
Yes. Welcome back to Hidden Rabbits.
Welcome back to Hidden Rabbits.
There we go.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there are a few more of you than were here last time.
There are.
I think Connor and I have gotten very used to making this podcast and other episodes just for
content.
Connor's dad and my mom. Yeah. And now we have a few more people joining us, which is very exciting.
It is very exciting. And we wanted to really make this because we have another episode already banked, but it felt weird to put that out after having an episode where the majority of our subscribers have come from.
Yeah, it felt like such a non sequitur.
Yeah.
And when that video drops, you'll understand exactly why.
Exactly. And it just feels weird to go from, we had I think 60 subscribers. Now we have almost 1,000, which in the grand scheme is not very much. That's a ton to us, though.
That's so many people.
There's there's going to be way more people watching this than there are other episodes of things.
Yeah.
So we felt like we should address that and maybe do kind of an in-between episode so that you're not taken totally off guard by the content of our follow-up. I promise this is an interesting podcast.
Yeah.
And we're kind of use this as like a time to introduce ourselves, really, to all the new people that are here.
So I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Connor.
And we both work in indie filmmaking for the most part. I'm a writer. Connor can do everything, but primarily as a producer and an editor.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I'm primarily an indie producer. That's what I've worked into.
Yes.
And we kind of started this channel as a way to get around the industry a little bit.
Yeah, which is something major that we wanted to talk about today because our Audra Winter video raised a really interesting question about traditional publishing versus self-publishing, art and class. And I think the book world and the publishing world very much parallels the film and television world. And this is something that Connor and I talk about every single day of our lives.
I mean, we had a 3-hour discussion about it last night.
Yeah.
And I think that's what kind of prompted this. So we make a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, we have 2 main series right now, but we definitely intend to branch out and do some other things as well. Yeah. Right now we do a podcast called I Promise This Is Interesting, where Connor and I cover niche subjects. We cover history, we cover science, we cover media, and it's kind of inspired by the Wikipedia rabbit holes that we go down naturally, but then we really research it out. And
we do a lot of research. And the whole point is Hidden Rabbits comes from rabbit hole.
And hidden gems.
And hidden gems, exactly. So that's the idea. And then we started doing Girlfriend Explains because I am chronically online, but not in the same way that Lindsay is.
Connor doesn't know what's going on in the world.
I don't know pop culture stuff.
I don't think he knows who the president is.
But yeah, so we wanted to have a deep conversation today about class and art. And I think just as kind of a follow-up to Audra Winter's, because a big thing for us is we don't want to be critical of art or artists because we're artists.
I'm less concerned about that because I'm fine with being critical. I mean, this is a key character difference between Connor and I, and I think maybe what makes our conversations interesting to me is that Connor is much more willing to be whatever.
Yeah.
Connor is famously just any horrible thing can happen, he'd be like, that's annoying. And that's as far as it gets. That's as angry as he gets. Isn't that terrifying?
Yeah, I'm pretty calm waters.
If the line at the DMV is not moving at a pace that makes sense to me, I'm a problem. I am a problem. So I think it's fine to be critical, and I think it's fine to look at situations and kind of analyze them. I love analyzing situations. That's my favorite thing. That's my bread and butter and my jam.
Yeah.
But there's a reason that we don't do just purely book reviews, and I think that's because we don't want to. I think there's something about putting a bunch of really negative criticism out into the world.
Yeah.
That just, there's enough.
Yeah, we kind of have
so much.
We kind of have a hard no bummers policy when it comes to stuff we want to put on the internet.
Since when do rich people do anything well? Yeah, I'm fine with covering darker subjects.
Absolutely.
But there are just some subjects that are just going to be off limits because I'd rather this be a cozy area of the internet. And it's kind of hard to get cozy when it's like, and then the blood dripped from her eyes.
Right. Well, and we were talking about it last night. Like, you and I want to be, when it comes to us as creators or the content we put out, we want the audience to feel like we're your best friends at a book club kind of thing. Like, we're the people that you...
Like a little book club
Yeah,
guy.
we're like a book club that you want to hang out with, and you feel like you're in conversation with us.
I'm making these episodes to make friends.
Is that right?
That is what I'm here to do.
You want to grow your international friendship base.
I didn't go to a lot of summer camps as a kid. This is my summer camp. This is my summer camp sleepover that I always dreamed of. So anyway, today we really wanted to talk about, do you have to struggle to be an artist? We wanted to explore that question. It's a question that came up a lot in our last video, and it's something that I love talking about.
Absolutely. And it's something that I think gets sold a lot by artists as a factor or a feature of the art that they create. It's like a selling point, is that I struggled to make this thing. Isn't that cool? Almost.
It's part of some people's mythos.
Yeah, it's part of their marketing a little bit, which is odd. I don't necessarily agree with that.
Well, a big criticism surrounding Audra Winter is that she used her age as a selling point.
Correct.
Where she was like, I'm only 22 and I'm a full-time author and I've sold 6,500 pre-orders. And the age was supposed to be a thing where it's like, wow, okay, you must be child prodigy level. And child prodigy, that term really legitimizes somebody who otherwise you would not legitimize.
Exactly.
I think part of the reason it's hard to be a kid is because nobody takes you seriously.
Right.
And that continues all through your 20s. Your whole 20s in any career, it feels like, is just trying to prove yourself to people. Like, no, I'm smart, I'm capable, I'm adaptable, I can do the things that you pay me to do. Take me seriously. Audra Winter built this world of the Age of Scorpius and like the system of magic when she was a kid, which we talked about in our episode, but it's very common for especially writers, but I know like any kid just gets creative and creates rules or has imaginary friends or, like loves going to the movies, loves playing pretend. Like it's very natural for kids. And I think the reason that kids tend to like kind of float towards creativity in some form or fashion is because they have the time and the energy. Because as kids, obviously you don't have work, but also you're not concerned with like the weight of the world.
Right.
And so you are able to just have this like unfettered access to your imagination. You're able to just be bored.
Yeah.
And when you're bored, you find ways to entertain yourself. So you're able to just paint pictures and say like, what if our skin was made of water instead of skin, you know?
I know. And I think that's the separation between that feeling of like, we don't take kids seriously when it comes to professional pursuits. It's because they don't have to have a professional pursuit. They're children, you know? And it feels weird to ascribe prodigy status to children and to have that legitimize them. Because what we're essentially saying is they're so good at this thing, they can now professionally pursue it as a child. And we wouldn't say that about other lines of work. You know what I mean? Like, we wouldn't say, oh, he's just a prodigy at mining coal. Like,
right.
You know, there's something about the creative world that has a different aspect to it.
I think creative careers are something you get to do, and other careers are something you have to do. I think that's a view that we have in the world. It's something else that I wanted to talk about today. But that state of freedom that we have as kids that is so unadulterated, like that's not accessible to us as adults, because now we have to manage finances and really complex family relationships and chronic illnesses, and we've lost in politics, and we're almost out of paper towels. Like I'm not emotionally or financially prepared for that expense.
I know. Like I'm in the middle of moving right now, and it's been very hard to do anything creative because it feels like I'm constantly trying to figure out what to do. Like in terms of my own life, I got to get all the pieces together.
Yeah. You know? So to manage a career and then also to work a job that allows you to have health insurance because we're American, and have money so that you can go live your life, take care of the house, take care of your relationships. Then you have to sit down at the end of the day and like work on something creative. And by then you're pretty juiced. Yeah. And it's like, well, I only have so much energy in the tank and it's all been spent on the rest of my life. Yeah. So you only have so much energy to spend. And I think that's a really important conversation when it comes to class and art. And like, do you have to struggle to be an artist? And the answer to that is kind of.
Kind of. Yeah. I think struggle is an inherent part of life is the thing. Like that's what the Buddhists kind of got right? It's like life is struggle. That's the kind of the big picture view of it, is that to exist is to struggle against life in all forms. I think that's part of art, is the representation of that struggle and the connection of the beauty between those things. And I think the topic that you and I talk about a lot is the fact that artists who are really dedicated to being artists don't typically actually talk about how much they have to struggle. It's very inherent in the work that they put out.
I disagree.
You disagree?
Yeah. An example that I can use is I went to college. I got my undergraduate degree from the New School in New York, which is like all those buildings are right next to NYU, but we don't have NYU money, but you know.
Yeah.
So, but it was, I got my BFA in dramatic arts and my minor in screenwriting. And as you can imagine, a lot of the kids who study theater in New York City at a private institution come from very wealthy, well-connected backgrounds.
Right.
And something that I heard a lot from the wealthy kid, there was a real divide from like kids who come from middle class backgrounds or lower class backgrounds and then the high class background kids. And the high class background kids lived in like nice penthouse apartments and they went to Broadway shows and they ate the $45 ramen and like they were really able to take full advantage of that city. They had full access, like that really was their campus. But for the rest of us, that wasn't our campus. Our campus was you're eating bagels from the bodega that are stale and not good because they've been out in the sun for 6 days, and you're working several jobs just to put yourself through school, and you are constantly trying to network, and you're living with 5 roommates, and all of these things are distractions from the work. And I heard this one person that I went to college with at some point, she was living in a really teeny tiny studio way far out in Brooklyn.
Right.
And I knew that she could afford a nicer apartment than that. So one time we were getting drinks and I was like, why do you live so far out in Brooklyn? It's literally like an hour-long train ride. Like, that's got to be awful. And she's like, I really want to suffer. And I think about that all the time. And that was a pretty well-established sentiment that some of the wealthier kids had, because I think they felt like they weren't making work that was resonating with people because they were living a life that most people can't relate to.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to make work, especially theater, which is so interactive with an audience, you do at some level have to be able to connect with other people. And when you live in penthouses and you go to these like exclusive restaurants, then you don't have you're not interacting with people.
No.
You're removing all of that interaction. And so your work is going to reflect that. And in theater, that's kind of a death knell. I think maybe in other art forms you might be able to get away with it, but again, art is all about connecting with people. And if you can't do that in your personal life, I don't know how you do it professionally.
Yeah. Well, and we're actually agreeing. The thing I said is, we'll have to go, I'll check the tape, but the point I was trying to make was like, people like that, they look at suffering as the subject of art, whereas people like you and your class at school, they were actually suffering. So their art wasn't about suffering, but it is intrinsic within the thing itself, because they know how to relate to people, because they live a relatable life, because they suffer like relatable people.
But then when those people break through to the next level, their suffering becomes a part of their mythos.
It is.
So they do talk about it. But we've heard these Hollywood stories all the time, or these Nashville music stories where it's like, I lived in my car for 5 years, like couch surfing, just playing gigs for free, like living on free vodka shots, like just trying to make a dream happen. And then they break through and suddenly they're on the Grammy stage and they're playing with Taylor Swift and like Snoop Dogg is there. And it's so exciting. But the part of their story that they stick to is the guy who was living in their car, living on vodka shots, because that's part of what makes them seem special. It's part of their brand now.
It's romantic. It's relatable.
Now it can be romanticized, but at the time it wasn't romantic. It's not. There's nothing romantic about being hungry.
Yeah, and there is a good way to do that too. To move to the next echelon, and not hold on to who you used to be.
Yeah, without trying to pitch relatability.
Right. Like Radiohead is a good example, I think, because they went on tour and started being really successful, and Kid A, their album Kid A I love that album. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. And Tom York basically said, like, that's an album that I wrote on the road about being on the road. You know, we were on tour all the time and I felt so isolated and I felt so alone. I felt like I was slowly disappearing from the world because I didn't exist. I was just a machine to make music. And that's what that album represents. And that's the thing, that's the artistry, is how do you make it to where you connect to the soul of humans, right? I always view art as like, art is not a thing we create. It's more of a thing we tap into. There's a river that runs underneath all of humanity that connects everyone, right? And art is a way to kind of dip your hand into that river and pull something out and send messages through, right? It's a piece of art is a message in a bottle that you send down the river.
Yeah, but the only reason that you pull anything out of the river is if you're curious enough to be fishing in the river to begin with.
Absolutely.
If you're just standing on the side of the river like, I already have my 10,000 hours of mastery.
Yeah.
I already know everything. You're not pulling anything out of the river.
Exactly. We talked about that. Like to achieve perfection is to cease growth, right? Yeah. And to come to rest is to die. That Sean Penn interview that you read the other day.
Oh, yeah.
In the New York, it was the New York Times, the New Yorker? Yeah. Where he's like, he went to go visit a Maasai tribe. And he said something to the effect of like, wow, it's amazing they've managed to preserve their culture like this. That's so admirable. And their guide was basically like, don't do that. Like, they're not growing. They're staying static and they're going to die.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of World War Z is movement is life. That whole philosophy of his that he carries through the movie is the most enticing part to me. It's so insightful. Movement is life. You just have to keep pivoting and keep moving, which really applies to a life that or a career in a creative field is constantly pivoting.
Yeah,
it's like you and I both. Like I started out as an actor when I was a teenager, and then very quickly was like the business of acting. Like the negatives of the business of acting really outweigh the positives for me. And so I pivoted and just started focusing on writing. And I was a playwright for a while and I ran an independent theater company and I did that until COVID happened. And then I couldn't do that anymore. So I pivoted and was working in the medical field and making web content because that was accessible.
Yeah.
And then I went to USC and started focusing on film and TV. And that was another pivot. And then I started working as a script supervisor. And then I went back to acting because I had some opportunities to do that and then focused on writing again. It's just constant pivoting. If you're just standing at a bus stop waiting for the bus to show up, like, especially in film and television, that bus is not coming.
Yeah, bus never comes.
That bus broke down in Death Valley and everybody's dead.
Your favorite thing to reference is Amy Poehler's quote about careers.
I love what she says. She calls her career a bad boyfriend, and that has been so illuminating for me.
I'll see if I can find the clip, but we should play the clip to see how she phrases it. But
it's from her book.
It's from her book. Perfect. Yeah.
So she talks about like your career is a bad boyfriend. He is never going to show up when you need him. He cannot make you happy. He will not fix the problems that you have with you. You have to fix the problems you have with you. And then every once in a while, he'll just show up and drop like $85 Casablanca lilies on your doorstep.
Right.
And what a lovely little thing.
Yeah.
But don't expect that from him because he's going to be doing that to some other girl tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's a great way to like kind of keep your career at an arm's distance and also to not do, again, what we talked about with Audra Winter, which is like equate the monetary success of your career with your success as a human being on the planet.
Yeah. Well, that's something you talk about a lot that I find very interesting, which is like, I think it's so true. We associate monetary acquisition through artistic means as the only measure of success to artistic representation, right? Meaning like the only way we measure success in art is how much money artists make. And it's a really unfair way to measure how an artist is giving to the world.
We only measure artistic success by financial benefit. So like if I had an electrical engineering degree and I told somebody at a party that, they might respond with, oh, so you know a lot about electricity and engineering. Interesting. How did you get into that? Can you tell I don't know what an electrical engineer actually does? Because but I have an MFA in screen and television writing, and the joke I always get is, oh, so you're unemployed?
That's the first joke. That's how they open.
No, I think the reason people feel comfortable talking to me this way is because they assume that if they haven't heard of me, I must not be that good.
Right. We hear about famous writers. We hear about famous actors. Yeah.
Right, because only the truly great break through and are remembered. And I would argue that no, only the truly well-connected are remembered. And that's because they paid in advance for their obituary. I want to do this little non-exhaustive list of people who are either nepotistic or hail from a wealthy, well-connected family, just so we can see exactly how prevalent of a problem this is.
Okay.
I wrote it kind of like a slam poem, so let's see how this goes.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gracie Abrams, RFK, RF Kwong, Lena Dunham, Nora Ephron, Chris Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, Frankie Cosmos, all of the Please Don't Destroy boys, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, Archie Manning, Bronny James, Timothy Chalamet, Drew Barrymore, Tracy Ellis Ross, Patrick Mahomes, Nancy Pelosi, Nicola Peltz, Gus Wenner, Lily Collins, Dakota Johnson, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Delphine Arnault, Ben Platt, John Tyson, Maya Hawke, Maya Rudolph, Meghan Markle, Megan Ellison, David Ellison, Justin Trudeau, Julian Casablancas, a.k.a. The Strokes, Cameron Winter, a.k.a. aka the Geese, Claro, aka Claro, Matthew Kachuk, Maddie Healy, Jennifer Aniston, Max Verstappen, Brooklyn Beckham, Margaret Qualley, Sophia Richie, Ariana Grande, Sofia Coppola, Asia Argento, Zoe Kazan, Zoe Kravitz, Mick Schumacher, Nancy Sinatra, Nora Jones, Carlos Sainz, Chris Pine, George Clooney, Lachlan Murdoch, Rupert Murdoch, Billie Eilish, and Brandy.
That was a great list, baby.
Did you know Brandy was Snoop Dogg's cousin?
Yes, I did.
I had no clue.
Yeah.
No clue. Shocked to see her.
A thing that we've talked about is the fact that we forgive nepotism if they're talented enough. Like a person who is a Nepo baby, we usually look past it if they're like, oh no, but they're good. You know, we get mad at Nepo babies if they're not good.
I disagree.
Really?
I feel like when Nepo babies are bad, it makes me feel good.
Really?
Because I'm like, you had every opportunity to be good.
Yeah.
And you're still not good. And that makes me feel good because I'm a little evil. This is a character flaw that I have, and I recognize it. I totally I'm working on it. I'm really trying to not to be a curmudgeon. I am a curmudgeon, and I'm upset. When a Nepo baby is good, I do have a habit of contributing it to like, well, yeah, when you can afford to like when you can afford to have acting classes and you get to work with your professional actor mom and dad and they buy your way into Juilliard and then you get to buy your way into Broadway shows. Yeah. I mean, you better be good.
Yeah.
You have no excuse but to be
so.
anything but that. I sure fucking hope so.
Yeah.
Dance, monkey dance.
I guess it's more of like a macro idea. Like typically the broader public will forgive nepotistic hires if they are good at the thing.
Yeah, that is true.
You know?
Yeah. If they're good and if they, like, I think a good example of that is Margaret Qualley.
Yes.
People found out that she's related to Andy, I forget her last name, but she was a very prominent actress in the 80s and 90s. So beautiful, by the way. Oh my God. I wanted to look like her so bad when I was a kid. I was like, that's who I'm going to grow into. And I thought if I just focused hard enough, it would happen. Didn't happen, did it?
Yeah.
But people found out that was her mom. And, she's very open and like upfront about the fact that that's her mom. She's like, yeah, I'm a Nepo baby. Like that's why I got into the industry is because I love my mom and I'm close to my mom and I wanted to do what she does and I love acting and she's pretty good.
Yeah.
So it's much easier to be like, well, live your dreams, love.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like I do have trouble kind of like holding it against them to a certain extent.
You're very forgiving.
I am a very forgiving person. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a character flaw of mine. I think about it in terms of like, when famous parents want to help their children, it's like they're their parents. Of course they want to help them, right? And the way they know how to help them is in the industry that they're currently existing in, right? If my entire life collapsed and my parents wanted to help me get back on my feet, my dad's worked in real estate and built hospitals for a good portion of his life. He would probably say, you know what, come work for me. Let's figure this out. I'm going to help kind of build your stuff back up.
Yeah,
right?
But here's the thing. Your dad was a professional hockey player, and he never pushed you to become a professional hockey player.
That's true. That's a very good point.
Both of my parents worked in construction for most of their lives. Yeah. They never were like, you're going to work in construction. That's the family business. Never did that. No. I don't think that's a way that you help your kids. I think that's a way that you handicap your kids.
Absolutely.
They're never going to learn to be independent.
I do agree with that. I just from a person standpoint, looking at a parent, I understand the instinct of wanting to help a child. I do think you're right, though, where a lot of times it does come from a dynasty thing, not I want to help my child.
No, I think it's like keep it in the family kind of thing.
Exactly. Because it's like they worked so hard to get here. We got to keep it. Right?
Well, maybe it's difficult too. Like if you're let's just stick with acting. It's the easiest example. Yeah. Let's say that you're an actor, you're a famous actor, and your kid wants to get into acting and they're like, hey, can you set me up with an agent? Like I want to get into it. How do you as a parent navigate that conversation and say no?
Right.
How do you say, no, I don't want to do that. I think that's a bad idea. I think that will make you dependent on me and this business. And I don't want you in this business. And I don't want to engage with this class system. Like, how do you have that conversation to your kid when they're probably 16, 17?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's kind of similar to like religion where you don't really force it on a child, right? You and I have talked about it. Like with our future children that we potentially have between 1 and 8. We haven't decided on a number yet.
Lucky number 12.
Yeah. We've openly said like we hope they don't work in the entertainment industry.
I wouldn't want them to.
I wouldn't want them to either. My nephew, I hope he doesn't work in entertainment. I hope he becomes a doctor or works in engineering or something.
We could use a good eye doctor in the family, by the way.
But if my nephew, I'll just use him because he's actually alive. If my nephew wants to become an actor or wants to work in film, I won't say don't do that. I would probably say like, really, I hope you think about it. I will help you in the way that I can, but I'm not going to create opportunities where you wouldn't have them otherwise, right? Like maybe that's the best way to do it.
That's a personal thing for me. Like if I had a kid, they wanted to do acting, I would put them maybe in some acting classes or get them into community theater.
Sure.
Because I think a lot of kids would want to do that anyway. Like I wanted to do it. Neither of my parents are actors. I wanted to do community theater, you know?
Yeah.
I want to end this on a positive note.
I know.
I think I wrote something, but I wrote this paragraph. I don't remember if it's positive or negative, so let's find out together.
We'll walk through it.
We've been told and sold this idea that working hard and being kind will allow you to rise above your class, excel in your field, and get your flowers. That is a gross oversimplification, and it assumes that creative fields are meritocracies. They are not. The rule is, if your family has it, so do you. And people like Selena Gomez and Lewis Hamilton are the exception.
I know, and I think it's really easy to slip into kind of like doomerism when it comes to working in an artistic field. Again, you and I have worked in film and television for a while, you know, and I've worked for some pretty big studios, and I've seen how they work on the inside. And it very quickly becomes depressing how much nepotism you run into at the kind of upper echelon of these Hollywood studios. And I can only imagine at other things like the publishing industry, right? The music industry, like and, you know, we're people that do deep dives on subjects. We look up directors that we like, writers that we like, artists that we like. And sometimes, most of the time, a writer that you like, their parents also have a Wikipedia page.
Under a certain age.
Yeah.
Especially, that's true. Anybody under 30 that you've seen in Time Magazine, they're related to somebody.
They're usually
without
related.
fail.
Yeah.
I have a 100% hit rate on that.
You do.
Oh, so this 17-year-old girl wrote a script and it got sold to HBO. That's interesting. Oh, her dad is Mr. HBO. That's interesting.
Yes.
How did that happen, I wonder?
Yes.
I'm sure that's a coincidence. But like you especially understand this because you've worked in indie movies and also bigger studio pictures. I've really only worked in indie filmmaking and like independent theater. But when you tell someone that you work in film, a question that you get a lot is, oh, anything I would have seen?
Yeah.
And usually the answer is no.
Right.
And again, they assume that because they haven't heard of the thing that you've worked on, well, you must not be very good. Well, you must not really be working at it. Well, you must be unemployed. But if I tell them, oh yeah, I worked on Captain America, Winter Soldier, the tone changes very quickly.
I actually tested that out one Christmas. I started lying about working on, I think, Avengers or something. I just tried it out at a party. It's like, oh yeah, I worked on the last Avengers movie. And the response I got, as opposed to, well, I worked on this one indie with the Duplass brothers. You don't know who that is. I worked on this other indie that it went straight to DVD. You didn't see that one either, of course.
No, but like an assumed financial success legitimizes me more than the fact that I have 17 years at this point of industry experience, an MFA from a really good school, and like can manage a production company. Like that, the money that they assume I have if I've worked on a Marvel picture is what legitimizes me. And I think that's a real flaw in the way that we approach creativity, because since when do rich people do anything well? This
is also something similar that you see in other industries, like wanting to seem more important or more like bigger than you might actually be, right? Like real estate agents, they talk about wanting to have a nice car. So then we drive up to an open house or they drive up to a showing. The person that they're selling the house of goes, he must be very successful. He knows what he's doing, right? My dad worked in commercial real estate for a really long time, and that is a common thing that people do. Is,
again, it really just feels like we're all kids trying to prove to other big kids that we're serious. It's like when you're in 4th grade and your teacher makes you go to the 8th grade classroom to drop off a stapler or something, and you walk in and it's like you're joining a club. You're like, where the hell these huge kids come from? This is spooky. It's like we're just doing that as adults. It's just, I need to put on a suit so this other adult knows that I'm an adult too. What are we doing? We're like cosplaying.
I know. What was that character in BoJack Horseman that was just the kids standing on top of each other in a trench coat?
Oh yeah, I can't remember, but yeah,
Walter
like
Business.
3 kids on top. Yeah, Walter Business.
Yeah,
I don't know who that was.
And but the joke of that is that people accept him into the world because he's just as legitimate as everybody else.
Yeah.
And all he goes, "What do you do, Mr. Business?" Business?
Yeah. But yeah, money legitimizes you. And we talked about this a little bit in our Justin Bieber, Hailey Bieber, Selena Gomez episode. But like Hailey Bieber was born into, she's a Baldwin by birth. So she was born into a life of like great nepotism and great money. And so she went through a phase that a lot of us went through, like as a fangirl of Justin Bieber and of like every other good looking man or boy in the 2010s. But the thing that separated her is that she was actually able, like in a position to meet these people,
Right.
to stay at the same hotels, to go to the same restaurants, because when you have that club card, it legitimizes you. So she was allowed to be a super fan and a colleague,
Yeah.
and the rest of us are really only allowed to be one of those
She
things.
got past the velvet rope.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know we joke about this, but you love Hosier, and you joke about your attraction to him in the way of like, well, he's a colleague, he's a contemporary.
Yeah.
You know,
We work together.
We're
both writers.
Yeah. Because we do work in the entertainment industry.
We do.
And there's a non-zero chance that we could eventually work with Hosier because of that.
Or bump into him somewhere.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be the most wild thing in the world.
I know. And that's the thing. This is kind of a tangent, but working in the entertainment industry, for a couple of years, you realize how like real that 6 degrees of separation game really is. Like after working in indie film for so long, I'm like 1 degree away from most people I've found, which isn't like a flex. It's just like wow, the industry is so much smaller than I think most people would think. You know?
And I want to stick with this idea of legitimacy for a second, because when you are, for example, starting out in the film industry, if you already have money, you already seem legit.
Yes.
So you don't need to waste 10 years proving yourself, working your way up from PA to boom op to script supervisor to second AD to first AD to co-producer. You just get to skip the line and go straight to co-producer.
Right.
Or director. And that's how you get these like 22-year-olds who are like writer, producer, director, starring in their own short films.
I know whenever you look at an IMDb page and you see a director who has no short films, no commercials, no PA work, no any other work, they just do feature films. It's like, man, you don't understand how good you have it, because most people have to go, if they want to be a director, let's say, we'll stick with that one for a second. The typical path is, if you go to school, you graduate, you make short films for a little while, you scrub and struggle to save money to make short films that you don't pay people for.
You make them on the weekends because we have a day job, Monday through Friday.
Because they don't make any money, because short films don't make money. And you put them through film festivals, and maybe you get noticed by somebody, and maybe you get a shot to do a commercial or a music video, or have a meeting with somebody and then to pitch a script that you have, and that takes years. And what people don't see is the perceived cost of that. It's like making short films is very expensive, putting them in film festivals is very expensive, traveling to film festivals in order to socialize with people who might be able to give you an opportunity.
Submission fees, application fees, software updates.
All the while you're not making any money.
Yeah.
That's why feature films are they are truly the next echelon, because they actually make money, right? That's always the push. You should always try to be working towards a feature film, because that's the market. That is the actual economy of film, is feature films. But to go from zero to feature film
is like 15 years.
That's 15 years, unless you have $1 million.
Unless you are Lily Rose Depp.
Right.
In which case you already start at feature film.
Exactly. And then I think what's troubling is that we also, there are people who get through, but they're the exception, not the rule, right?
I think there's a real exchange when you skip the line without spending 12 years honing your craft, because there's an exchange with anything. But like, talk about Audra, like the exchange that she makes is that her book is not well edited, and that like you kind of ruin your own project because you didn't spend the years, like the pre-orders that she made allowed her to skip the line because it gave her that financial comfort. And so then you were able to just like skip to the end. It's like, you can't skip to the end. You don't know. The whole middle is the whole point.
Right. And that's the thing. The middle is the experience gaining portion of that. And when you skip the experience gaining, you end up with, you don't get to the finish line, right? You end up with a worse product because you're not as kind of artistically ready to take that on yet. That's something that Brandon Sanderson talks about in his classes, where he kind of opens with, you guys are not professional writers, you're college students. My hope is that I'm going to prepare you to eventually become professional writers. But you should not feel the pressure to be that right now, because you're not. And I think it makes sense that artists get impatient when it comes to stuff like that, you know, which is why I understand why Audra did what she did. I think anybody would jump at the opportunity, but it is ultimately to your detriment when you try to skip the line.
Yeah, I mean, I want to talk about that time point that you just made, because like Samia, I love Samia. Samia's my favorite musician. She's also like a buddy. Like
Yeah.
we went to college together for a very brief time before she dropped out and became a musician full time. But her parents are also in the industry. Her dad is an actor and a musician, and her mom is an actress.
Right.
And shows she was born into like a very different world than I was. And I'm very grateful. Like I think for the most part, I can pretty comfortably say that nepotism makes me quite angry.
Sure.
And that like wealthy people taking over the art world is like AI taking over the art world. It makes me pretty sick to my stomach.
Sure.
But there are some cases in which I'm very grateful for it. Like in Samia's case, I'm grateful for her nepotism because I love her music and I really connect with a lot of her lyricism. And I think she's a wonderful vocalist and musician and collaborator. But if she didn't have that nepotism that set her up on a different foundation, then I wouldn't be hearing her music now. I would have to wait until she and I are in our 30s, probably, and then hear her music. But I'm grateful that I got to listen to the music she makes in her 20s because I'm in my 20s and we kind of get to grow up together.
Yeah.
So like the timing of that really worked out. And it's important to note that like you and I work in film and we see this like happening more and more as you're 30 and I'm approaching 30, as our friends and family, like they all get older, they leave the industry.
Yeah.
Because if you're not wealthy, the best thing you can do is just outlast. Just keep throwing cupcakes at walls and just outlast the people who can't survive long enough.
The one truth that I've found about working in the film industry, and I'm sure this is true in other industries, creative industries as well, is that the people who are the most successful that you meet are the people who have just lasted the longest.
They just have rooted their feet down and have refused to get. And there's an element of luck to that because some people don't have the luxury of just waiting 10 years to throw darts at a board and hope that something sticks.
Right. You said something really good last night, which is like tenaciousness is a privilege.
Yeah.
I think. And I don't know. I want to put that on a t-shirt. Like I think that really is such an accurate way to describe it. Like not everybody gets to be that ultimately.
No, I'm really struggling at this point in my career. I'm a good writer. I have experience. I know some great people who are working and I know some great people who are not working right now. And I'm really in this awkward holding pattern of my career, but I'm in a really lucky spot that I can be in that holding pattern. There are plenty of people who can't be in that holding pattern. If you have kids or if you have a chronic illness with no way of providing medication to yourself, you can't feed yourself. You get to a point where you can't put gas in your car.
Right. You're taking care of other people. You're taking care of like elderly parents, elderly grandparents.
People don't want to live like that. They're like, screw this. I'm going to go to Flagstaff where I can live like a prince and just make commercials.
Right.
Because screw this. Like, this is not how I want to spend my life.
We're going to like the banking industry or something.
Yeah. Like to be stubborn and to be tenacious, I think is a great privilege.
Yeah. And I think one thing, like the word nepotism has a lot of like negative connotation. And I don't know. I understand why it has negative connotation. I think it's important to say nepotism is not like an inherently negative thing.
No.
It's just a thing that exists, right? It is a preferred kind of, you get to push things up a little bit because of who your parents are, because of who you know, right?
We've been doing it forever, by the way.
Absolutely.
Like ancient Egyptians, like the pharaohs, that was a class, like a family class system.
Yeah.
The Roman Empire, same thing. The mob, it's all bloodline. That's where the loyalty is.
And that's true. And I think what we find is that nepotism only does get you so far, where in certain industries where nepotism does exist, it doesn't make up for lack of talent or skill.
Mick Schumacher is a really good example of this.
Familiar.
His father, Mick Schumacher, was a Formula One driver. His father, Michael Schumacher, is lauded as like the greatest Formula One driver in the world. And Mick Schumacher's his son. And so naturally, like he went into the league and competed for just one season and finished last, I think, in just about every race. And now I think he does rally driving or he does commentating. Like he's still involved in that world, but he's not a Formula One driver anymore. And we're also seeing that with Archie Manning.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's not putting in a great season because you can have all the connections in the world, but like at some point you have to physically be present. You have to physically write the book.
Yeah.
You know?
That's the thing. When you have Peyton Manning as your coach, as your personal coach, probably really helps.
That's one big beefy leg up.
Absolutely. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you still have to throw the ball.
Yeah.
You
still have to get hit and get back up.
Exactly. You know, my dad played hockey. It probably would have been in my economic interest to try and pursue hockey, but I was never going to be a hockey player. Like,
you're so sweet.
I know my dad very famously in my family very early on told my mom, he's never going to be an athlete. And she goes, why? And he goes, he's not mean enough.
You're not angry.
And he said that when I was like 3.
Yeah.
He could tell.
Because
Yeah.
You do know with athletes specifically.
Yeah.
I think with like creative careers, it's like really like different. But athletes, there's a specific special thing there.
Exactly. But that's a form of nepotism is,
Yes.
having my father who was a professional NHL or a professional hockey player, like I would have had such a leg up on anybody else who played hockey at my age, right?
Maya Hawke gave an interview a couple years back where she talked about acquiring a movie deal or a role.
Okay.
And she mentioned offhand to one of the producers in the room that she wanted to delete Instagram because it's Instagram. But the producers told her, don't do that. Mm-hmm. Part of the reason that you're getting this opportunity is because of your social media following.
Right.
And Maya was like, are you kidding me? So like, that raises 2 points that I want to hit. It's like, one, if a career in acting is that cutthroat for Maya Hawke, imagine being like a kid from the Midwest whose parents are accountants.
Like a nobody, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And 2, this is almost a barrier, but for Maya, it's not. Mm-hmm. Because being rich is a real cheat code, and that's why Jeff Bezos can have his stupid 20-foot tall hedge wall that's illegal technically in Beverly Hills because the fine is $1,000 a month, and he makes that literally every second.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? Unbelievable.
I know he rents out the city of France or the city of Venice. That's
the famous city of France. God.
On this podcast where we talk about cities as countries.
One time in a short, I accidentally called Germany a city. Germany is a cycling city. Like it was just a flub. And that was like the most engagement we had on any content.
It was Europeans calling Lindsay an idiot.
It was a bunch of Germans being like, these stupid Americans. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, do you actually think I like brought my passport up to an agent and they said, okay, welcome to the country of Germany. And I just was in my dreamy little cloud head the whole time. I don't know that's so stupid.
Yeah. Nobody, anyway, you can't make mistakes.
I'm not bitter or anything.
You can't make mistakes on the internet. But yeah, he rented out the city of Venice.
So yeah, like not only do you have the time, the energy and resources to build a career and quickly, but you also have connections, and the connections themselves are worth their weight in gold in every industry, but especially in entertainment. Again, like Maya Hawke not being able to delete Instagram is like almost a barrier, but the truth is she's one of the most followed Nepo babies on Instagram.
Is that right?
She has a great social media following, very engaged audience, because she also puts out music. She pursues all these other creative outlets. So like, she has a following that will support her, buy her t-shirts, go out and see her movies, watch her web content, because they are interested in like what Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke's daughter is up to.
Right.
Like it's inherently a very interesting world because it's so unfamiliar.
I know. That's very true. I mean, I worked on Euphoria, and we obviously had a big cast for that one. But the person that comes to my mind is Maude Apatow, who was on that show. Maude Apatow is the daughter of Judd Apatow, and Judd Apatow is, Hollywood royalty. Like
comedic director.
He made all of the funny movies in the 2000s that you and your dad have watched.
Yeah.
And great director, great writer, killed it. And his daughter, I'm not going to speak negatively about a person I don't know, really, but
I will.
But she got onto Euphoria, and she didn't really have a ton before that, So it becomes a question of okay, are we casting this person because of their ability? Or are we casting this person because of their familial connections and how good that is for us as a show?
Yeah. Like Maude Apatow attended USC for, I think, exactly 1 semester.
Really?
And then she dropped out because one of her short films got into Tribeca.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. There's nothing inherently... Okay. I went to USC. That is famously a rich kid school.
Yes.
And especially I attended the MFA program for screen and television writing, being I have to say it once an episode or they take the degree away. But that is very famously a rich kid school, rich kid program. Like, wow. Olivia Jade and the Varsity Blues scandal is a great example of that. On the surface, hilarious. Those photos of her fake rowing, I think we should put on the wall. Those are so great.
I'm not familiar with this. What are you talking about?
So, the woman, Lori Loughlin, who was in Full House?
Yes.
She has a daughter named Olivia Jade, who was a YouTuber.
Okay.
And Olivia, got into USC.
Okay.
Mysteriously. And then she, because she's a YouTuber, uploaded a video saying things like, I really, don't even want to go to classes. I just want to, do game days. And everybody was like, how did you get into USC, which has a 10% acceptance rate if you don't even want to go to class?
Right.
And then the Varsity Blues scandal blew up. And that's when like all this information came out that like wealthy and famous parents were paying admissions officers at USC to get their kids in.
Okay.
And Laura Laughlin, what she did was get Olivia Jade and her sister, I think, sports scholarships to be on the rowing team. They have never rowed competitively in their lives. So what they did was they took fake photos on a rowing machine at a gym and like Photoshop them to be on the water.
We have to find those photos. That's amazing.
It's hilarious. Like on the surface, so funny that like these parents care more about status that they are willing to pay literally tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars to get their kids into schools that they will not be attending.
Yeah.
She's only going to go to the football game. She's going to join a sorority. She's going to get drunk. She's going to pass out on McDonald Boulevard. Like that's all she's going to do. But also there is something a little malicious and maleficent about that because there's only so many spots available at USC, especially on the rowing team, and you took a spot from somebody. In fact, that one family took 2 spots from somebody else.
I did hear about that. I didn't know the details, but I know. And the thing is, it's like what people always expected, right? Is that rich people are paying to get their kids into
this
these
was something that it's an open secret that happens not just at USC, but at every like big school with a big endowment. You just know that that's happening. Like, why does every politician's son get into Harvard?
Right.
But there's some argument to be made there where it's like, if you let Maude Apatow into USC, that may increase your endowment. And theoretically, the bigger your endowment is, the bigger the opportunity for scholarships and other like financial aid for students who otherwise couldn't afford to go to the school.
Yeah.
So I think a good question is like, what do we do with the rich people? Like, can we make them work for us? Like, can this be a symbiotic relationship?
Right.
I don't know. That butterfly effect, though, of like some rich, famous kid stealing a college spot to like a hardworking kid who like actually deserved it. I don't know if that makes up for it. I just have a hard time saying, well, the endowment's bigger and like feeling comfortable
And that
with
essentially helps somebody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Potentially.
But is it a trolley problem?
It is a bit of a trolley problem. I know. Because I think the argument is like, well, who cares? It doesn't really harm anybody. But I think there is harm. There absolutely is harm. And quietly, it hurts the reputation of the university too. Because if you have somebody like that who they look at the one who the family, that Full House lady who her 2 daughters got in, it's a big scandal. That hurts the reputation of the university.
It does.
You know, and USC is not getting any cheaper.
No, it's getting more expensive.
It's getting more expensive every year.
Yeah, it is worth noting too that like this is just like the latest iteration of this.
Yeah.
Like the church used to commission art.
Yeah.
All those paintings that we have of Jesus dying, that's not just what the artists wanted to paint. They were being paid by the church to paint those things. And the same thing with the king. We have how many times can you paint the same incesty face?
Yeah.
Like truly, like it was just, that's who was commissioning the art though. And that's how the artists were working. And wealthy patrons have always supported the work of artists, but we seem to be in a moment, and maybe AI is to blame for this somewhat, where the wealthy just want to make the art themselves rather than commission a professional.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, and I think supports this argument that when we have time, we gravitate towards creativity. Because the Obamas aren't firing their HVAC guys so they can do it themselves. They're making TV shows.
I know. I think what you're saying is totally true. Like the wealthy of society, the rulers of society have always been connected intrinsically with the arts. They're patrons, they're purveyors, but they used it as a form of status. Art was seen as a form of status in the same way that your kitchen was seen as a form of status, right? A king had a good kitchen. The food that they ate at banquets was seen as a representation of their wealth. This is how good my chefs can cook. These animals were hunted on my property. That's how good my gameskeepers are. That painting was commissioned by an artist that I paid. That's how good the artists in my community are.
Right.
Right. And it's similar to what I know it's a boring topic, but I talk to you a lot about it with like this idea of billionaires and how we have entered a new era of billionaires where they don't live anywhere. Right. People who used to have a lot of wealth, like John D. Rockefeller, used to live in one place. He used to have an address in New York, and he lived in a neighborhood in New York, and he had neighbors, you know. And part of that was like there was a silent agreement among the incredibly elite that wherever they live, they're going to improve.
Yeah.
They spend their money in their local community because they can't leave. They live there. right? They can't jump on their private jet and fly around the world to wherever
Right.
they want to go.
And now Jeff Bezos lives in his private jet.
Yeah,
He's not improving the city of Beverly Hills.
Exactly. So now that they've become citizens of the world, unlike anyone else, they don't have the same need to commission things to make things better.
Yeah, it is not just entertainment. I found this information. This is crazy.
Oh, please.
So from 2006 to 2013, JP Morgan hired about 100 new staff members,
Okay.
all of whom were related to high-ranking Chinese government officials.
Seriously?
This was part of an official hiring program called the Sons and Daughters Hiring Program. And it was created and operated by JP Morgan. And we know this because the bank was keeping and creating spreadsheets literally detailing a person's name and how much revenue they could be expected to bring into the bank just by being there.
Wow.
And in 2013, JP Morgan paid the U.S. government a little over $260 million in restitution. And I say restitution because, again, I think the butterfly effect on something that massive is too immediate and can never really be fixed.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And what was the point of that program?
Like to benefit business in China for the bank.
Oh, I see.
So it's like if you're hiring Chinese government officials and their daughters and their sons, one, you're like allowing them to live in the United States, which can be very difficult even if you're a wealthy Chinese businessman.
Right.
But you're also opening up the door to do business in China.
I see.
Which the U.S. and China have a pretty adversarial relationship.
They do.
So any in that you have is good.
Right.
You know?
Right. That's so interesting.
Isn't that crazy?
I know. That just reminds me, like I'm friends with some finance people, and they talk about starting their own independent firms as opposed to working in Wall Street.
Yeah.
And they say the difference is that when you work for a bank like JP Morgan, is and being independent is that when they hire someone from JP Morgan, they struggle because they're used to their phone ringing because they work at JP Morgan.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're independent, you have to work to make your phone ring, right?
Yes.
So there's a bit of a difference in terms of what is expected, right? And I think that also goes into arts. We've talked about this, where being an independent producer makes you a really good producer.
Yes.
And it makes you a much better producer than if you've worked for Marvel for 30 years. Because at Marvel, all your problems are solved because you have $1 billion to work with.
Yeah.
Right?
I think people scoff at my theater degree, and I get it. Like being a theater kid is pretty embarrassing.
Sure.
That was pretty rough. But I can tell you how to get 30 people in a room and how to throw a party and get everybody to enjoy themselves for $10.
Yeah,
I can do that.
exactly.
I can put on a performance in a site-specific performance of God of Carnage, and I can have it be pretty good.
Right.
Like I know how to make it good.
Right.
And that's a skill I wouldn't have had if I didn't go to theater school, because that was our life, was like, how do we get people who, like in this attention deficit economy to show up to a play and spend money and time with us when we're 19 and there's nothing legitimizing us at all?
Right.
How do you get people to show up for that? I can tell you how to do that because of where I come from,
Yeah.
because of that background that we have.
And I would argue that that takes a lot more skill than like maybe the marketing department at Wicked has to deal with, right? Not that they're not
It
great at
kind of
their
writes
job.
yourself.
but-
No, you're taking photos of Ariana Grande.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you have to do? Put her on a billboard. Job done. Take a vacation.
Right.
I really want to talk about this idea of amenity exchange.
Okay.
I believe that for everything you acquire, you must release something else,
Okay.
because you only have two hands. You can only hold so much. So if you were born into a world of creature comforts and working for fun, you get to acquire time and energy, resources and connections to be creative or whatever else it is that you want to do or be. But you release the ability to connect with the majority of people, because the way that you are living is not the way that most people are living. And there's always going to be distance there.
Yeah.
That's going to be a little lonely for you. By contrast, if you're born into a world of blue-collar work and tight budgeting, you acquire the ability to connect with the majority of people because more people are living that kind of life.
Sure.
But you release the time, the energy, the resources, and the connections to work creatively. You really, no matter what you decide to do, if you self-publish, that's great. You have all this creative control. Everything goes through you. People can give you edits and you can decide not to take a single one. You can be like, no, my book is perfect. I've been working on it for 12 years and it's not going to be any better than it is. You guys don't know what you're talking about. Good night. And you can light a cigarette and fall asleep with it in your mouth. You
Right.
can do whatever you want. But you are also paying for all of it. There's a lot of upfront cost. If you are editing your book, hiring editors to edit your book, if you're bringing in commissioned artists, or if you're formatting it, or if you're printing it, God forbid, you're binding it. Like, that's all coming from you, and that's a lot of work. And you might be a really good writer and a pretty good public speaker, but that doesn't mean you know how to do social media marketing.
No.
That doesn't mean you know how to print. That doesn't mean you know how to format. It doesn't mean you know how to edit. And so you're really taking a big risk, because the book might be really well written, but if the cover isn't right, or if there's a typo in the title because you didn't edit it properly, or you didn't hire an editor, you didn't have the money to hire an editor, then you risk this project that you care a lot about. And that's the give and take. That's the release and acquisition of self-publishing. Traditional publishing comes with the opposite problems.
Mm-hmm.
You have tons of resources. Lots of people look at your book and go through it. It's a well-oiled machine, book publishing. It's right next to prostitution. I think that is the oldest profession. So people know what they're doing, but also you have very little creative control, and you get way less credit.
Yeah.
Because you're only doing, realistically, like 50 at the most part of the work.
And that. I think a lot of that is true. And I think a lot of that also applies to the film industry.
Absolutely. Again, there's no middle class of art making anymore.
No.
There's no middle ground between self-publishing and traditional publishing that I'm aware of.
I think the middle class is like an indie publishing house or an indie production company.
That's
right?
about as close as it gets.
Where you still maintain a little bit of control, because there are indie publishing houses that work like that, where they really rely on the artist input, but they do have kind of the broader scope ability to support them.
Yeah, the infrastructure.
Right? Exactly. And there are production companies in Hollywood that are very similar, right?
Yeah.
Where like I worked with the Duplass brothers for a long time, and that was kind of their thing. They wanted to be very artist-centric, very like forward. That being said, at the end of the day, when we talked about this in the Audra Winter episode, where when you take money, you are now culpable. You have to kind of answer to that, right? That includes audiences, and that includes the person helping make the thing that you're trying to make, i.e. a publishing house, right? Or a publisher or a production company. When they give you money to do a thing, you have to listen to their notes to a certain degree. That's the exchange, And I think just to go back to what you said a little bit earlier, I think it's really easy to get very doomer about it, of like, well, if I'm just blue collar, I'll always be blue collar. And it's like, no, it's not true.
No.
But it's going to be a bit of a more of an uphill battle.
You will, if you are blue collar and you want to not be blue collar, that means you are going to have to work harder and longer than other people.
Sure.
Because you are competing against people who were just born there. And very few people just totally tank. Like if you're born in like a big famous, like, Hollywood, if you're a Kennedy, very difficult to go all the way back down.
Sure.
So they're already born here. They're just going to keep going up. So the most you can hope for is like just keep working at it, keep chipping away, and build your way up. But it's going to take you longer.
And that's the thing. There's nothing to say that like a blue collar person can't just write books for fun in their free time. And
of course not.
No. That's
what self-publishing is like. I think ultimately for is like if it's on your bucket list, you've always wanted to write a book, you just want to share it with people, and like traditional publishing is not worth the hassle. Self-publishing is there for you, and it's awesome.
Right.
And sometimes people write self-published books that go viral on TikTok,
for
and like
reason.
Suddenly they're a darling, and it's like. What a nice surprise. Like, I don't think Colleen Hoover was expecting her career to go the way that it has.
No. And I think when we talk about the privilege of the privilege of being able to take time, right? There's also a privilege of expectation, right? The person who is just self-publishing, they don't really get the privilege to expect that they're going to make a lot of money at it. They don't get the privilege to think, I'm going to shift my whole career to be this, right? Because they have to maintain their structure underneath, because they're still taking care of their mom, they're still taking care of their kids. I would think like somebody who comes from a more wealthy kind of upper crust, like white collar background, there's kind of an expectation that success is going to be there for them whenever they want it, right? If they work at the thing consistently enough, the success will just show up.
Well, this is what I was talking about earlier with kids, where like all the noise of the world cannot penetrate their little heads because they just don't even know how to hear it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing if you're very wealthy, where like that noise of the world doesn't hit you because you don't have to worry about your rent. You don't have to worry about finding a day job. There are so many times that I'm on a job and then on a lunch break, I'm looking for the next job.
Yeah, that's very common.
If you're wealthy, you don't have to worry about burning out because you can take vacations. You can travel at the drop of a hat just because you want to. You don't have to worry about missing your family because they are accessible to you. You don't have to worry about medical care because that is accessible to you. It gives you all this freedom of time and energy.
Yeah.
And when you have all that time and energy, you get to be bored. And when you're bored, you create things. It's the same way that the child imagination works, where it's like, yeah, you don't have to worry about all of this. This is taken care of for you. You can just make something. You can work on your screenplay for 10 hours a day and not feel exhausted. If you have a day job and a kid and a sick mom and a bad car that needs to be taken into the shop and the house needs to be cleaned, you've got 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And you just have to keep showing up every day for those 30 minutes to see if you can make it to the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. When I think you're exactly right. When it comes to people who don't have the privilege of time, they have to figure out where they can fit in the artistic pursuit that they want to have, right? It's not that they get to choose when to do it. It's that they have to fit it in to their pre-existing schedule.
Yeah. Something that's comforting to me in this topic, because it's something that I really oscillate between like absolute doom and gloom and fury and like, oh, who cares?
Right.
Like that really just cannot even affect me. I think it's this idea that for every comfort your class provides, it steals something else.
Yeah.
Like I don't necessarily, my financial situation stresses me out a great deal, but I don't think I would trade it for somebody who is super wealthy, because I would have to trade so much about me in order for that to happen. I can't just become wealthy and then like everything else stays the same. Like my writing style stays the same and our relationship stays the same. And like I'd have to sacrifice a lot of things in order for that to become a part of my life. And I don't think I would be willing to trade that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's true, because look at like people who win the lottery, right? Like most people who win the lottery and win $500 million, they're not suddenly showing up at the same parties as Jeff Bezos, right? Usually most people who win the lottery lose that money within the span of a couple of years. And it's because that I think that sudden influx of cash doesn't change who you are as a person, but it kind of has to.
Does.
I think it has to, right? And so it's at odds with the person that you used to be, and so I think it's hard to navigate that kind of thing.
I think money changes people a great deal.
Absolutely.
You can meet somebody before they had money and fame, and then you meet them after, and there's a real shift. And it's not so much, I don't think, like, oh, that's who you've been all along.
Right.
It's like the money changes you. Having access to all this stuff all the time, it raises your bar of what you're willing to accept. Tina Fey, oddly enough, not to quote Amy Poehler and Tina Fey in the same episode, but Tina Fey wrote about this in her book, Bossy Pants, where she's like, the first time I was brought onto a photo shoot, like they were powdering my face and they put me in a corset and they like strapped it super tight and they were taking photos of me, and the photographer was saying things like, yes, mama, like, yes, give me the crawl, give me the jaguar crawl, you know, it's gorgeous, yum, 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 spaghetti and meatballs. And then like somebody brought fruit tarts in from Silver Lake and they were delicious. She was like, it's the best raspberry anything I've ever had in my entire life. I had an egg white latte or whatever the fuck. And then we left. And then I went home and I got paid like $20,000 to do that. And I couldn't believe it. And then you know what? The next photo shoot I did, they didn't bring in those raspberry tarts and I was really disappointed.
Yeah.
And I had a hard time thinking about anything else all day.
I know.
Because now your bar is that.
Right.
And then how do you beat that?
Yeah.
And then the next thing that you can do, now this is your normal.
It's kind of like doing drugs a little bit.
Yes.
It's kind of like doing drugs, which is
a
funny.
Perfect analogy.
Funny to come from me because I've never done drugs. I've never even smoked pot. So
which you can tell. You can tell Connor's never done drugs.
Can you tell that about me?
You can tell.
Yeah. Because like, great example. Because like I recently did a junket for Netflix. And we shot at the Netflix building. And I'm used to indie sets.
Yes.
Where, you know, lunch isn't always guaranteed, right?
It's a big, it's Subway.
It's Subway, yeah. It's Jersey Mike's
It's
catering.
Jersey Mike's and fruit snacks.
Yeah. And at the Netflix junket, we broke for lunch, and it was one of the best lunches I've had, like, period.
Chocolate fountain.
And you would have thought I had never eaten before, the way I piled my plate so high.
Yeah.
And everybody else who's used to working these things was just like, oh, they don't have the muffins that I liked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to hit you. Like, are you kidding me? This is the greatest on-set lunch I've ever had.
Yes, but that's their normal. They see it every day. So it just becomes so, like, average to them, you know?
And that's you can't fault somebody for that. Like,
no, it's like people who eat in Michelin star restaurants all the time. They don't experience eating at a Michelin star restaurant is not just about the food. It's about the experience of the whole thing, right?
Right.
But they can't experience it. Their taste buds are literally burnt out.
Right,
it's like,
those nerve endings are overstimulated.
Yeah, they're like, whatever. I've had this meal 100,000 times in my life. It'd be like eating my spaghetti and meatballs. Just like, yeah, I've eaten that meal 1,000,000 times. It's
like
nothing special. It's just what I eat.
I like your spaghetti and meatballs.
I do too. Well, you make it. Of course you like it. What else did I want to talk about? We kind of talked about this. blah, blah, blah.
We can always go back over another topic too.
And then, oh yeah. Luck. I think we should talk about luck.
You think we should talk about luck?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
Some people who have benefited from wealth and nepotism, Ben Platt, we can throw him under the bus. It's Ben Platt that I'm talking about specifically, get very defensive when confronted with the fact that they're from a wealthy family and maybe that their family's station in life has helped them succeed in a very competitive career. And I think they get very defensive. It's understandable why they get defensive because in their minds, they've also worked very hard.
Okay.
So they're like, I don't think it's fair to cast all of my, flowers off to my father. Like I've also had to show up. I had to audition. I had to apply to fellowships and
sure.
I had to show up at this red carpet. I mean, that took some effort.
Not to be all ooga booga boyfriend brain.
What?
Who is Ben Platt?
Exactly. He's an actor.
He's an actor. Okay.
He's an actor and he most famously was in this musical called Dear Evan Hansen.
Oh, okay. I know about Dear Evan Hansen.
Which is supposed to be about a high school kid. And Ben Platt is 30-something. And his dad is a producer and was a producer on the Dear Evan Hansen movie. And guess who was playing a 14-year-old boy? 30-something-year-old Ben Platt.
That's crazy.
And he was Naruto running through the hallways. And again, because you didn't have 12 years of cutting your teeth, he's not good at acting. He doesn't have to be.
Could you imagine me playing a 14-year-old?
Yes, because I've seen Ben Platt play a 14-year-old. But another person who's spoken out about this is Lily Rose Depp.
Oh, yes.
Somebody
yes,
confronted her about being and I say confront, I think that's pretty strong. I think it just comes up. It's like, hey, you're the daughter of Vanessa Paradis and Johnny Depp. What's that like?
Right.
That sounds pretty cool. And she goes, quote, "It's weird to me to reduce somebody to the idea that they're only there because it's a generational thing. It just doesn't make any sense." I recognize that must be a very uncomfortable and awkward situation for them.
Right.
Because nobody wants to be reduced to their family's sins.
No.
Nobody wants to be reduced to their family's financial situation. So I just wonder if that's true and wealthy, famous people can say that about themselves, why they don't extend that same understanding to working class people. Why they always are very quick to say things like, well, you're just making excuses. Well, if you worked as hard as I did, then you would be here. And it's like, no, I wouldn't actually. You know how I know that? I'm working harder than you and I'm not there.
There is a sanctimoniousness that comes from people in positions like that. And it can be a little, I say a little, that's underplaying it. It's very grating to hear,
It grates.
It grates very hard. and the thing is, I think what's troubling about it is that it's so easy to not be like that, right? The example I think of is Rick Moranis, who...
Oh, I love that guy.
He's so wonderful.
Childhood star
Childhood star, and was in famous movies like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Parenthood, my all-time favorite.
Yes, and so many others. Was a massive star in the 90s. And then I believe his wife passed away or got cancer, very serious cancer. And he said, you know what? I'm going to quit this show business thing and I'm going to take care of my family. And he did. He left show business. I don't think he's doing any kind of acting or anything like that. He's just a father. And he raised his family and took care of the people that needed to get taken care of. And it's that's the ethos we hope to see in people, right? And it's to see an industry where people are trying to beat the door down to get into, to watch somebody exit so gracefully in that way, to look at the things that really matter in life. There's something that's just so lovely about that. That's hard to dislike. You know what I mean? And so when I hear about people like Lily Rose Depp who get chafed at somebody asking about her father, it's like, look, this is all optional. That's a thing that I take on set with me a lot because my AD mentor, Newman, shout out to Newman, I love Newman, talks about this a lot, where it's like, we don't need to be here. Film and television, movies, all of this is optional. This is not life or death. We're here to make art, to have a good time, to enjoy each other's company. There should be no screaming. There should be no yelling. There should be no unpleasantness.
There should be no life-ruining moment here.
Absolutely.
This is for entertainment. It is ultimately to make something fun for people. It's to add some fun to people's lives. So I think it's better if you're having fun on set. But some people take themselves very seriously.
They do. And back to your point about luck. How lucky are we to be here, right? That's how I feel every time I step on
Oh my
the
God.
set.
Anytime I'm on a set, I'm like, thank God. Thank God. I get religious and I'm famous atheist. I'm like, wow, I am like brimming with gratitude right now. Like all these tiny indie sets with like bad lunches that I can't eat anyway because I'm a diabetic. Just like the fact that I'm on set and I'm doing the thing that I have wanted to do since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And it's been so hard in recent years to find gigs. Anytime I'm on a job.
So thankful.
I'm so happy.
So thankful. I know I do assistant directing work a lot, and that's typically assistant directors, for people who don't know film stuff, they're the people who are in charge of like organizing set on the day. So when we all show up, the assistant director is giving orders. And typically a day on set will start with the assistant director kind of giving marching orders or like what we're planning to do. And on the first day of set, it's usually kind of a welcome thing. And I always start with like, enjoy this, like let's really soak this in and be happy that we're here and feel so lucky that we're all blessed to be here and working on this thing, because we don't have to be, you know. I always feel weird talking about like the big stuff that I've worked on because it feels like I'm bragging, but I've worked on HBO shows, and part of that comes with working on studio lots. And I knew that working in film was the thing I wanted to do, because every day, the thing you talked about of getting used to it, every day of working on a studio lot, every day, I never got used to it. I would walk onto set, I would walk onto the lot and be like, wow, this is amazing. I'm smiling because I'm around the thing. This is what I wanted. This is magic. I'm getting chills thinking about it now. Like,
it's so exciting. We just went to go see a film premiere because one of your friends just made that documentary, The Power of Pickleball, and that had its premiere on the lot, on Warner Brothers lot,
the Fox
Sony
lot.
Fox lot.
The Fox lot.
And we went to the Fox lot, and I haven't been to the Fox lot in a long time. Yeah. And we parked and we were walking through the lot, and I'm like, I feel like a kid on a tour.
It's magical.
It's
I know.
so magical. I thought about, it's so funny, like I was born like in Pomona, which is not too far from like downtown Los Angeles or Burbank, where all these buildings are. And you'd see like, I've always watched those behind the scenes of like directors and cast members like hanging out in between shots and stuff. So you see the lot, and it becomes this like magical thing, which is so funny that it's just a bunch of warehouses essentially in the desert. Like it's really nothing special, but like as a kid, it just had this like sheen of like Steven Spielberg shiny gloss to it, you know. And then showing up there as a 28-year-old, it's still like, I'm watching Jurassic Park for the first time. It's so exciting.
That's the thing. I mostly worked on the Sony lot. That's where HBO does a lot of their shooting. And like I said, every day I would park, I would get my pass, I would go to my spot, walk down. I'm next to all these massive studios where they're shooting Silicon Valley and Black Panther and Wheel of Fortune. And I'm blown away. Every day I felt like so blessed. Again, I'm also not religious, but I'm like, God, I feel so lucky. I feel so lucky. Which is weird because I also worked really hard. So it's luck and working hard go hand in hand. The way I think about it, and I've had mentors tell me this too, it's like luck is just opportunity plus preparation. You prepare for the opportunities that you're given, right? And the lucky part is getting the opportunity in the first place. But if you get the opportunity and you're not prepared, then you blow it, right?
I think doing creative work is a privilege, but I don't think creative work is only for the privileged.
That's a really good way to put it.
And I think right now we are living in an economy that only allows it for the wealthy and the well-connected. I wrote about a similar idea on my Substack this week, where I talked about thieves and people who steal your work.
Yeah.
And that's a really scary thing, especially, I can really only speak as my experience as a writer, but having your work stolen from you is a very jarring experience, whether it's from somebody that you know or a total stranger. It's extremely disturbing.
Yeah.
It feels like a gross violation. But something that has helped me is thinking about the psychology of the kind of person who, in order to create things, has to steal them directly from another person.
Yeah.
Do you actually think the thing that they end up quote unquote making is going to be better than your version of it? Of course not. They stole it. All they have is a premise.
Yeah.
And they can't do anything with a premise. You know how I know? They had to steal your premise. They couldn't even come up with a premise. How humiliating.
Yeah.
And whatever success they might garner from stealing your work, you and I both know that is unsustainable.
It is.
It's impersonal and it will not last.
Well, and I would argue that the thing is, the person who steals misses the point of the thing, right?
They're doing it for the aesthetics. They want to wear the big glasses and catch the roses at the premiere.
Right.
They don't want to write a screenplay.
Whereas the person who wrote the screenplay wrote it from a place of their soul, of wanting to create.
Of wanting to. And
Yeah.
you know how I know you wanted to? Because you made it even when it wasn't convenient.
Exactly.
If all you ever do is out of convenience or out of boredom, I don't know how interesting that stuff is going to be.
Yeah,
I'd much rather read a book by somebody who wrote it because they like had to live in their car, or they wrote it every day, like at the hospital while they were taking care of their sick parents, than like, I don't know, no offense, but like Hailey Bieber. Like, I'm not going to read that memoir.
No, and that's the thing. It's not to say that wealthy people or people who have a lot of convenience in life can't make good art, but I think there's probably something to be said for the fact that people who make good art in spite of are making things that are beautiful. Even if I don't like them, I think they still make beautiful things.
And even if you're not feeling particularly good about the artistic pursuit that you currently are pursuing, I think the act of rebellion against the higher class is worth sticking it out anyway.
Well, and to a point that you made earlier, it's not about the money, it's about the thing.
Yeah.
So I think that is a very positive note to end it on.
Yeah. The truth is, none of the industries are fair. They are riddled with people who got there from unfair means, who have more than you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you should keep doing what you're doing anyway.
As an act
I
of
think
rebellion.
you should do it. Yeah. Because then when you're there and you're standing next to them, you get to be like, I earned this.
I earned this. And nobody can take that away from me.
No.
No interviewer can ask me a question about it.
They can't.
Yeah. So maybe that's snide, maybe that's a little shitty, but I don't know.
We're punching up. Again, I believe in punching up.
I also
if
believe
we
in punching
can't
up.
like punch up at the rich and powerful, like who can we punch up at? You know?
So yeah, this is an encouragement to keep making, I guess, in spite of it all.
And to punch.
And to punch up specifically.
Or across.
Or across.
That's fine. I think we're interested in exploring some more bookish content and some more like creative.
Yeah, artist lifestyle stuff.
I think we're interested in exploring that. I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Connor.
And this has been a Hidden Rabbits original piece of media.
It has. And I hope it was a little bit interesting.
I don't know.
But thank you for watching. If you like content like this, like and subscribe and stick around and leave a comment. We really do like engaging with the comments on these videos.
It's very interesting.
We're not used to getting them. So.
No. It's usually just my mom being like, great job, keep working.
I know.
Keep chugging along.
But we want to do more stuff like this, and we want to do more artistic things. And
we have a link in the description for a topic suggestion box. So if there's something that you guys want us to cover, just put that in there. We'd be very happy to explore any suggestions you may have.
Or at a certain point, we'll do Q&As.
If you're interested in that at all.
Let us know. But yeah, we'll see you next week. And it's your line.
What's my line? Oh, yeah. I'll see you in 2 seconds.
Bye, everybody.